expecting a few more people. So we will give it until about 5 minutes after 7, and then we will get started. So, my name is Andrea Miller. I'm the executive director of Center for Common Ground. So, what I'm going to ask everybody to do is in the chat, put in where you are located. This training, all of our examples are going to be for Virginia, but what we're going to be teaching applies to Congress. It applies to your state house, wherever that may be. It's just the links will be different to find those places. So, yeah, we've got Maryland, we've got Virginia. I know California is here. So yeah, oh wow, okay, great. And Amy, you're right here in Richmond. So yeah, so theoretically easy for you to run over to the GA. Hey, Bakura, yeah. So yeah, I know you always have legislation in front of the General Assembly. Yes. Welcome, Louise. So glad you could join us. So, Louise, if you would be kind enough and Bakura, just drop in the chat where you are joining us from. You can give us city and state. We don't need a lot of details, or you can just give us state, whatever you want to do. So, we're just trying to figure out how general we're going to need to be. All right, yeah, we got more Virginia people. I'm going to give folks 2 more minutes to show up. Oh, yeah, I love that. Yeah, Bakura, you're in Chester by way of Newport News. All right, well, both of them are in Virginia. So, yes. All right. Yes. I spent from 2009 to 2019, that's 10 years, lobbying in DC at the federal level. So we only once did I ever do public testimony, and that public testimony is probably what turned me into a lobbyist, because when I got done testifying, the Congressman John Conyers, he stood up and had his team like, come over, we want to talk to you. And that was really what got me started, working in Congress for jobs for all, Medicare for all, the Equal Rights Amendment, a number of voting bills. Um, Ultimately, I became a lobbyist for the budget, and I basically chaired the People's Budget Campaign from 2016 to 2018. All right. Well, it is 7:04. There's going to be other people joining us, but everybody knows that if they sign up, they get the recording. So I bet we got a lot of people who are going, we want the recording. So I'm going to go ahead and get us started. So good evening. I'm Andrea Miller, Executive Director of Center for Common Ground. Welcome to our public testimony in the Virginia General Assembly and local government, and or whatever government group you are going to be testifying before. Tonight, our wonderful little crew, will be led by Edwuan Whitehead, who is the Public Policy Director for Center for Common Ground. So, Edwuan, if you will, John, go to the next slide. Let's go ahead and take it away.
They weren't going to give it to me.
Thank you, Andrea. Let me pull up John's screen here. They give us tabs now. Good evening, everybody. As Andrea said, my name is Edwuan Whitehead. I'm Public Policy Director for Center for Common Ground. I have been looking forward to this training with you all. We actually did one in partnership with Clean Virginia this past Sunday. But I wanted to do this one with all of you because I wanted to do a deeper dive and give folks a chance to get a little practice in, and have that freedom to ask any questions that come to mind. There's no such thing as a stupid question in this realm. I'm happy to receive them. So a big purpose of this training is really to help folks understand exactly where testimony takes place and how those decisions are made, to explain the structure of testimony at both the state and the local level, to show how to prepare a short and usually, hopefully, a powerful testimony that resonates with legislators, and to provide tools, examples, and some confidence for your speaking at hearings. And of course, for the thing that we always want to do at Center for Common Ground, which is to encourage active civic participation across this Commonwealth. Go to the next slide. Let's see. Oh, goodness. So why your voice is pivotal in this process. One, no taxation without representation is always my favorite one. And then, a bigger part to the meat of why we're here is the testimony becomes, a part of the official public record, and definitely influences future policy analysis and conversations that these legislators end up having going forward. The bigger thing here too is that lawmakers, especially in Virginia, very heavily rely on public speakers to explain sometimes how a bill will actually affect people in real time. Lived experience really is viewed as a form of expertise in this realm. So if you've experienced it, come on over, give that testimony, share your story. It gives residents a chance to spotlight community issues that have come up, that usually data alone simply just cannot capture. Citizens who consistently show up usually end up building credibility with legislators. And so if you're anyone like me or some of the friends who do this work in the General Assembly, when they see you pass by the office, they know you by name or they run away from you. And finally, public testimony usually can shift votes. It helps to amend bills to make them better, and it usually prevents harmful bills from going forward. And depending on the situation, could also hurt good bills from going forward too. So how the General Assembly works. It is a very basic structure. It's a bicameral legislature, has two chambers, the House of Delegates, of course, which there's 100 of them, and 40 senators. In Virginia, we have what's called a short session or a long session, which is comprised of either 45 or 60 days. This is, those sessions have very strict timelines and deadlines all the way from November until usually March or up to July when we have special sessions or things like that. Where testimony happens most often is in the subcommittees, which that's one of the most critical stages because that's where most of the legislation either lives or dies. And then, of course, at full committee, when you were having more so of the broader discussion about the actual bill itself, but it usually comprises of the subcommittee recommendations. So an example there would be today, they actually voted on a bill, like they voted on a group of bills in a block, which was, it means they voted on all of them at the same time. And they did that with all of the recommendations from the subcommittee. We didn't go over any of those recommendations. We just that was an understood and agreed upon situation with the whole committee, and they moved forward accordingly. So it would have been super pivotal in that moment for us to do testimony in subcommittee. We can go to the next slide. So agendas move very, very quickly. With there being about 5,000 pieces of legislation in the General Assembly, I can understand why. So your hearings can start as early as 7 a.m. or super late into the wee hours of 8 p.m. I've done both, depending on what's going on. You usually often are very limited at how much time you can utilize to speak, especially when there's a lot of folks who are speaking on the same issue. And so clarity and efficiency are super essential to this process. You want it to be short, but really understood and felt, something to remember you by. And it also really helps understand the process of just working through this process and really getting a better understanding of how the General Assembly has its greatest impact. Oh, you were good, John. So signing up and navigating testimony in both chambers works differently. And so we'll go over the Senate procedures. They're a little bit more strict with their signing up for testimony. The online registration for virtual testimony only happens 30 minutes before the actual committee meeting starts. And then slots usually fill up fairly quickly, especially for high profile bills. We did link the link for in this presentation for actual sign up in the Senate. It will not open until 30 minutes before the committee is called. And once the committee is in session and has started to meet, they will no longer accept sign up for public testimony. So it's good to get in and get it in early. You got a short window. We'll move us to the next slide. On the House side, it's a whole lot easier on the House delegate side. They have two respective times that are very strict deadlines. You can do in-person sign up. You usually doesn't happen in the committee room anymore. But it happens on housedelegatespeak.virginia.gov. And for morning committees specifically, the last time to sign up for those public comments is the midnight before the morning meetings. And then if you want to do an afternoon testimony, you have to sign up before noon. A way to really help understand and navigate getting to where you want to be at, or understanding where your bill is, or even if your committee is going to be meeting that day, is by going to the respective either House or Senate committee meeting schedule for the day. This is a great example. It looks like from today. This is a snapshot of today because they did cancel P&E this morning. So you can see when committees are canceled. You can see when they are in progress. You can see where they are on their docket in case you came in late or what have you. If you are signed up to speak, they will always allow you in as long as you were already signed up before the committee meeting started. Once you get in there, it allows you go ahead and put your information in there. They're gonna definitely ask you what cities, town, or residents that you represent. The only additional thing I will say here, well, there's a couple things. In the Senate, if you are representing an organization particularly, they prefer you to voice that. They do not have that restriction in the House. The beautiful thing that the House has done, which is a new thing actually, you see that little check mark where it says provide written comments? It allows you to not only sign up for in-person testimony, it also allows you to provide written public comments, which is then recorded for the record by the clerks and put in a like Facebook thread style forum where you can literally go in for any specific bill and see what everybody in Virginia wrote in for their written comments. And yes, they do limit you. They do limit you to 3,500 characters, so you got to be mindful of that, especially when you're testifying on multiple bills. So, general tips here. Do your best to arrive early if you're speaking in person, because sometimes you don't know what the order of the agenda will be, and sometimes they will change it in the moment. You want to monitor the committee docket the night before or the day of the actual hearing, because they sometimes will add certain bills or remove certain bills, depending. Um, it's usually good, to have some talking points either written down or on a device or what have you. I'm very good about taking my iPad with me to have my documents kind of written out for public testimony myself. And a kind of a side note here, just be ready to kind of adjust quickly if a bill is heard sooner than expected or later than expected. It will always depend on where they are in the meeting schedule. Some subcommittees meet concurrently, so one subcommittee after another, and you end up having to wait for a long time like we did yesterday. And you won't get to testify until later in the evening. It'd be like that sometimes. But that's why the virtual and the written is very pivotal in that moment because it may not be suitable if something happens later than expected. Okay, how to structure a 60 to 90-second testimony. Um, First thing you want to do is you want to introduce yourself. You introduce yourself, the locality you come from in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and usually depending either way to what organization you represent, if you represent one, or a group that you represent, if you represent one. It establishes your credibility, and something is also for them to remember you by. I know the subcommittee chairman got so tired of hearing my name and organization yesterday. He just told me whether you tell me whether you support or you don't want the bill. And so, in that vein, you have to just state your position very clearly, whether you support or oppose, whether you're requesting or offering an amendment and utilizing the bill number. I also like to add here that you sometimes would like to mention the patron of the bill, the chief patron, and acknowledge them for putting it forward. Provide one or two facts or stories of your lived experience, and keep it very focused so that they can have something again to remember you by. Going through and explaining the impact of your life experiences to that bill and what you're trying to put forward, connecting the policy directly to that community reality, and then going into making a very clear and specific ask, whether it's to move the bill forward, whether it's to amend the bill or alter it, or to table it, which is the formal language for laying it down on the table and killing that bill. And basically for me, the big one here is you thank the committee, the chairperson of the said committee, signaling a level of professionalism between the legislature and community. So example time. Good afternoon, Madam Chair. My name is Edwuan Whitehead. I live in the city of Richmond, and I am asking the committee today to support House Bill 78 because it improves transparency and recount procedures for our elections. Last year, my community in the city of Richmond saw a lot of confusion during the certification process, which created unnecessary distrust in our systems and institutions. These updates will ensure accurate and reliable elections for all Virginians. Thank you for your time, Madam Chair, members of the committee. So some notes there. You stay calm, keep your tone very confident. As Andrea always tells me, speak slowly so they can hear you. You want to try and eliminate filler words because they'll get caught up in that and try and question or throw you off. And if you ever forget something, just always remember to go back to your main point and then go for the closing if you can. So some effective messaging tips here. What makes testimony really compelling that I've experienced is when folks are speaking very naturally and confidently rather than sounding like it was a script that was being written for you, which is the importance of sharing your stories, right? Because it highlights real world consequences, real world experiences that I can tell you honestly, sometimes most or all of those folks in the legislature have not had in their life before. And so with them being the decision maker, you want them to put themselves in your shoes and have your experience be understood and felt. Using a piece of data usually is helpful, it's usually a powerful anecdote rather than too many. I think a good example of that was when I think we were discussing utility base rates hikes for Dominion, and I came to them and I said, guys, in 2021 and 2022, Dominion raised our utility base rates 20% for Virginians. That's too much. And the ask has been continuous since then. One data point made my point. Okay. Usually you want to definitely try to maintain the respect for the committee members, even when they are in disagreement with you. You usually do this by only acknowledging the chair of the committee, not individual legislators or committee members. Okay. all of your talking points, points of order, and things that you want to say to respond, you always designate those things to the chair of the committee. Um, do your best to avoid reading long paragraphs because the filler words kind of get in the way at times. And so I like doing it in bullet points so people can grab those quick sound bites and keep it rolling. Um, and of course, at the end, you always want to make a very clear recommendation, whether it be to amend, support, vote, table, go back and fix it in the other room, something. And then you remember this, committee members usually will remember the speaker who is concise, credible, and respectful, even during the committee proceedings when it's, tiring and everyone's annoyed. So going into the local government aspect of this, I used Richmond as our example here, but this can be dedicated to any locality across the Commonwealth of Virginia. And so where testimony happens on the local level is during city council meetings, during board of supervisors meetings, school board meetings, any planning commission hearings, or budget hearings or zoning hearings, any type of committee styled legislative body is where you put up public comment to move those legislators in one way or the other. How that differs from General Assembly testimony is it, on the local level, they give you a little bit more time and grace with that. They usually give you a longer speaking time, somewhere anywhere between 2 to 3 minutes. Most local officials will respond directly to you or engage in that dialogue with you. Um, you know, and then you build a stronger emphasis with relationships with your local folks, your neighbor with the neighborhood issues and with, to the community's benefit 9 times out of 10, because sometimes even they don't know what's happening in your neighborhood, especially if they don't represent it. And the last thing that I will say with that is that local testimony usually leads to immediate policy action. And so it's something you get to actually see in real time, right? With GA, when we go and do all these things and bills die or they pass or what have you, we have to go through the entire process and then it's implemented on July 1 of the same year. Whereas with local, government, a lot of the times when we testify for something on that day, they're usually voting on it that day. Okay. So and it's the same standard structure. You want to just introduce yourself in the district you're in, depending on city council or board of supervisors, magisterial district, identify the specific issue on the agenda, explain how it affects your neighborhood or community in a positive or a negative way, and try and offer clear solutions and recommendations for that. Because we love people who, can complain about the problem because we got a lot of those, right? But we also want folks to be able to come back with solutions so that we can have solution and move forward. So some practical tips for success here. If you're moving with a group of folks, you want to try and coordinate with your allies so that multiple voices are saying the same message and it's reinforcing what everybody is already desiring the common goal of, which is usually either to kill a bill or to pass the bill. Submit your written comments if they allow you to, which is why I love the House version of delegates for testimony, because it allows you to do that in a public facing forum where people can go back and see it on the record. And then of course try and prepare like a one page summary with some essential points. I think Andrea's great for that because she always tells me, give them 1 page to read. 2 is too many. But during the hearing, and I'm really big on this with folks, during the hearing, do your best to stay calm, take notes as others speak so that you can probably have something to add to your testimony. Listening very closely to committee member questions so that you can kind of navigate what your testimony is to circumvent some of those questions or even give solution to some of those questions beforehand. Sometimes they will call you back for questioning. And if you are called back for questioning, just answer briefly and be very honest and forward with them. Don't be disrespectful, just be honest and forward. Try to avoid acting or overreacting emotionally to opposition testimony because they do allow support and against. We have to allow that type of discourse in a fair political society anyway. And then after the hearing, depending on what took place, you definitely want to try and follow up with committee members by email and, to try and change their mind or to thank them for what they passed or chose to not pass. Make sure you're sharing those updates with your organizations and the community allies that you came into the room with. And then try to track the bill or issue as it's moving through the stages. And when you're working with folks like Center for Common Ground, for example, because we do this with Clean Virginia as well, is we are always adamant about letting our volunteers and our constituencies know where we are in the process at all times, sometimes in real time. Okay, here's the fun part. I'm gonna do this thing where I'm gonna pretend to be the chairman of a committee, and I'm gonna not everybody at the same time. I'm gonna volunteer to open the floor for any brave souls who want to try and do a quick practice exercise. If anybody wants to give it a try, give it a shot. I see Bakura raised her hand. Let me take go ahead and come off mute, Bakura.
Hey everyone.
Hi, B. So what my goal and intent here is for us to kind of walk through a good old-fashioned public testimony moment, and you just kind of show folks what that looks like. I
Mhm.
grabbed the prompt, let me say, because we pulled it off the screen. Da, da, da,
I'll
da.
put it back up. Hold on. I'm sorry.
Appreciate you. You're all right. Mhm. Let's see. John Williams Green. Here we go. Um, so thinking in real time about this, describe one policy change that would help community and give one reason why it matters. Using, let's say the same bill number I used earlier, HB 78. Um, and try to give me a 1 minute testimony as to what that policy change is, how it helps community, and why it matters.
Tell me what 78 was one more time at one, because
Oh
I
no,
got so many in my
you're
mind. What was it?
you're okay. You're just at that point. I'm just using the same House bill number as I used in our earlier example, but this can be for literally whatever policy change that comes to mind.
Okay. Um, what was the name of the bill that we were looking at yesterday?
Ooh,
About
well,
the
licensing.
suspensions of license.
That was HB 1129.
1129, right?
Mhm.
Okay. So, all right, I'm gonna go with that one, and it's gonna be HB 79,
Okay.
and we're gonna pretend. And that bill was local motor vehicle license and registration failure to pay certain taxes, fees, and parking violations. And this was introduced by Wendell S. Walker as the chief patron. And I would, of course, come up and thank everybody for being there today and my opportunity to speak. And I would address the floor and I said, my name is Bakira Shabazz. I'm the founder and president of the Injustice Reform Network. And I am ecstatic about this bill that was brought forth to reduce the amount of driver's license suspensions for my community. What we do know is that a lot of people are experiencing poverty and they're unable to pay taxes, court costs, and fines. And then as a result of that, their license gets suspended and now unable to go to work. They're unable to attend to their children. And this further exacerbates poverty in our communities. This bill is a good bill because it helps reduce that strain on individuals and gives them time to pay off these fines and costs and taxes and allows them to continue to work and continue their lives, their everyday lives that they do. I support this bill. My organization supports this bill, and I thank you for bringing it forth.
Thank you. That was a great example. Um, and so for me, if there's anyone else in the room who wants to put their hand up, if not, I'm not gonna be afraid or be upset. Um, but if no one else wants to give it a shot, I will, I really want us to try and think about public testimony from a team aspect, right? And so for me, I think oh, Bonita, go
You've got
ahead.
a hand.
I got a hand up. Go ahead, Bonita. You have the floor. You gotta unmute, Mama.
Oh, okay. Well, I tried to unmute and then it said I couldn't. So I wasn't sure. Well, anyway, good evening. So
Hi.
I want to just try it because I always was interested in testimony. I'm always interested in testimony and I watch General Assembly a lot.
Mhm.
Um, and even last week, there was a woman that came up and first I thought, oh my gosh, she's so dynamic. She said she's a doctor and everything. And then I'm going
Mhm.
to tell you the first time she came up, I thought that. The second time, I was like, boy, she's an expert in everything on all these bills. And then the third time she came up, I was like, wait a minute, there's something wrong with her story here. She says she lives in her car. Then the fourth time she came up, she gave a story and fainted. So I was like, oh my gosh, and they had to adjourn this, go at ease. So, but I am always kind of interested in doing this. So I'm going to give it a shot.
Okay. Well,
I'm going to
what
talk
policy
about,
change?
hmm,
I was gonna say, what policy change were you thinking about?
I'm thinking about SB 161, and there is a companion bill, HB 625.
Ah, okay. And
Okay.
what does it do?
And so HB is do you want me to start um with the spill or I'll tell you what it
Absolutely.
does. I'll tell you what it does. The bill is really to make it so that there are certain plans, insurance plans in the individual market space and for small businesses that are copay plans, right? As opposed to all of for RX, as opposed to them being all co-insurance because
Gotcha.
unfortunately co-insurance can be very expensive when you get to and very surprising for people once they get to get to the pharmacy and decide they have to pay. So here it is.
Understood.
Good afternoon, good morning, whatever it is. Good morning. My name is Benita Sherman, and I am very excited to. Oh no, my name is Benita Sherman, and I am here in support of the Transparent Choices for Patient Budgets. I am a member of the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network, a volunteer, and I am also a cancer survivor. I live in Prince William County, and my Senate district is 29 and my House of Delegates district is my House district is 24. So I am here to ask for your support on SB 161 and with a companion bill HB 625. The chief patron for SB 161 is Senator Perry, and Delegate Rosia Henson, is the chief patron for HB 625. The bill offers certainty and choice and transparency at a time when Virginia families need it most. Unfortunately, 31% of Virginians actually fear that they will be unable to pay for needed prescriptions in the next year. Patients often have no idea what a prescription will cost until they reach the pharmacy counter. And this is unfortunate for so many Virginians, particularly those undergoing not only cancer, but other chronic conditions that require medications that are needed in a time like this. So I do ask that you will support SB 161, and there is a companion bill at HB 625. And the chief patrons are Senator Perry and Delegate Henson. Thank you so much for your time. I'm here, Chair Whitehead. If you have any questions, please let me know. Yay, how did I do?
And in moments like that, like so I just thinking about from where you are, I think JCF is your senator, if I'm not mistaken.
No,
No,
McPike.
you got
McPike.
McKnight. Oh,
Yeah, and I might have gave the wrong district because
oh, you're
the
fine. You're fine.
districts
You're fine.
changed so much. They've changed with redistricting.
Don't
Uh-huh.
worry. All in due time. We gonna catch you up on that.
Yeah, I know it. I just can't keep it in my head. But I know it's McPike and I know
Yeah,
it's Torian.
trust me,
Oh,
don't till it's
yeah.
final, and we'll kick the BOEs behind if they don't do it right.
That's right. And the one thing I also should have included in this, because I think it's also important when when we're giving testimony or talking with our lobbying, is that this particular bill is no cost to the Commonwealth, right? So this is really just ensuring that insurance carriers are doing the right thing by Virginians who enroll in plans by giving them that fair and open choice.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah.
Absolutely.
I think that's like the hook, that's the sinker right there.
Well, it is. I was gonna say usually, depending on the bill, most of them are going to be thinking about what's called fiscal impact
Yes.
for to the state. And so when you can present a bill and give a very formidable testimony like you did with data points and organizations you work with that are affected by this and thinking about the long term and looking at all the scope of the bill and looking at how it affects Virginians overall. And then you come back and say, well, it's not going to cost the state anything to do this, and it's a great measure. It puts them on notice to say, okay, the ball is really in y'all's court.
Hmm.
Say yes
Hmm.
or you can say no. And so, in moments like that, kind of similar to the bill that Bakura did as well, because that bill actually died in committee and it was presented by a Republican. It was a bill that I agree with. It's just good legislation. It's a way to minimize and mitigate communities of color and every person of low income realm in Virginia as a whole to stop having issues or not to have an emergency burden of over $400 in some way, shape, form, or fashion.
Hmm.
And so, we sometimes in these moments, we get to see the partisanship side of it kind of go to the wayside, right? Because
Hmm.
regardless of the party loyalty part of it, right? If it's good legislation and it's going to be a positive effect to Virginians, why would we
Right.
not do it?
Exactly. Exactly.
So, yeah.
Can I ask you another question? So
Hey,
with fiscal impact, before they updated the LIS last year, I used to be able to, when I go to a bill, I could click, there was a button I thought that said fiscal impact.
yes.
But now when I go into LIS, I cannot find that button
Uh,
um, on
so
the
in,
legislation.
in LIS, now you on the new website for LIS,
Yeah.
because they have the updated one now. When you go into where the bill is summary wise,
Hmm.
it puts in place the actual fiscal impact from the Department of Budgets and Operations, and the actual bill language itself, and of course any
Oh,
substitutes or amendments that come in real time within 24 hours of it being done.
okay. Okay. I'll have to look back. Thank you so much.
No
And is
problem.
that as easy as it is to stand up and testify? I mean, testify, give testimony, not testify.
I mean, sometimes it could be you could be testifying. It's okay. 'Cause,
Hmm.
I mean,
Okay.
depending on the subject matter, I mean, the thing for me is why I say these stories are so impactful is because it takes away the misinformation and the rhetoric and the riffraff, and then we have to be able to look at it from a real, true human perspective. Uh,
Right.
I think a good example of that was in one of my, first sessions in the General Assembly. We were talking about third trimester abortions and why they should be legalized in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And in that, in the committee, the chairman of the committee was like, asking very one would say upsetting questions to all of the folks who were doing public testimony. Yeah, I think Gilbert at one point said, so when you go into labor, are you still going to have the capabilities of doing the third trimester abortion? And it's like, well, no, because that's not science. So like that's not how science works. That's not how the female body works. And in one of the few moments I can honestly say that was a very dumb question. And the reason why I say that is because they will do that sometimes. They will ask you these very like outlandish and like very devil's advocate questions that are very unnecessary. And he had done this after 6 women had lost their child to third trimester abortions because of things not under their control.
Oh,
And so,
wow.
they had basically come to full term. They had named the baby, they had built the room, they had the crib, they had the clothes, all of these things. They've made connection, and the baby would not have been viable outside of the womb for more than 20 minutes. And that was what we were trying to ensure is that they wouldn't be penalized for that. they wouldn't be penalized for that. And so even after these women came and gave their real world life experiences and basically poured themselves out to this committee, to come back with a question like that is very, very demeaning. And so at times, it could be, it's very daunting. And I'm always, I like to have an accountability buddy with me or someone to keep me calm sometimes when I'm in there. That's why I like going in with other folks. Because sometimes they say or do the most outlandish things. They really, really do. And so, I mean, for me, I do want to offer up to folks that are feel compelled. Um, there is a public testimony team that we have been formulating through partnership with Clean Virginia on a lot of the bills that Clean Virginia and Center for Common Ground have been supporting in coalition. And on the other side of that, Center for Common Ground has been working with the National Women's Political Caucus to kind of push forward and help really give back some backbone to a lot of the candidates, specifically female candidates that they endorsed during the 2025 election cycle. And so what I've been doing is basically going to all of those NWPC endorsed candidates and saying, hey, where do you need communal support? Where do you want community to be in the room and kick the door in and have a bunch of support in there for you? And so as we've been getting some feedback around that, we have a signal thread of folks who are already actively doing testimony. We do live updates in the signal thread in real time to say, when committees are coming up to make sure to sign up at a certain time. And so within that, it allows us, to meet each other where we're at, which I am always appreciative of. And so if you're at work, if you can't come into committee or what have you, if a bill is up, you can get that information in real time so that you can give the public testimony on something that you actually desire for not just yourself, but your fellow Virginians. And so, once we're done with this call, I'll do my best to connect with all of you via email and setting up, of course, the security around the signal thread and things like that to try and get folks in on the public testimony team so you can not only see some of the real-time things that we're doing with the other folks who are already signed up for the public testimony team and the Clean Virginia bills that have been up, but also to kind of start working through and helping lobby for some of those NWPC candidates to get them across the finish line. And I say that, for me, I think the philosophy around that has always been just from a democracy standpoint of things, right? Um, Oh, how do I say? Oh, so when I send the email, when we send out the email after this meeting, Bonita, I will send you guys all of the information with that. I'll try and I'll set up a signal thread, an individual signal thread for us to do that, get folks in real time, and start trying to track some bills for us, to start looking after for some of the NWPC candidates. And for any of you who feel froggy to come down to the State House or be in the General Assembly building, I've basically been there every day. And if not, I'm listening to them every day. And so when I do make it a point to go down there in person, I'm always happy to have friends with me to do some of that work, that legwork to support, whether it be your individual legislator or to support a legislator who's trying to put forward a measure that's beneficial to not only you, but to your family and other Virginians. You know, that's what we can do best to support them, right? I think that philosophy comes from being an informed and educated voter. It's not just voting in the blind. It's not just voting for a candidate because of their party loyalty, but it's putting in that investment, which is the privilege for you to do with your vote, and getting a return of investment on your vote. It's a way to ensure that. It's a way to hold them accountable and to be a part of that accountability with them. We have people all the time say, well, I put them in there, but they didn't do anything. But what did you do to make sure that they did? So that's the philosophy. But to close us out here, key points for all of us. Keep a very clear, short testimony. It's usually the most powerful. Subcommittees are where real decisions happen. Subcommittees are where real decisions happen. Personal stories and lived experience carry the most weight. Okay. And I think most importantly, you do not need to be an expert to testify effectively in the General Assembly. I've seen someone as old as 8 to 10 do a damn good job of public testimony. And all he did was support the bill with all the adults that was with him. And actually, Bakira just said that it was her son, King. And it was something that had personally affected him, and he told them that. 10 years old, that kid. Best testimony of the day. And so I think for me, what I will leave you all with, as we get ready to part ways, don't be afraid to be a part of this monster, because it is us who continue to make Virginia run. And if we want to make sure it runs efficiently, we got to kick their behinds to do that, right? And so the other thing is, if ever there's a question that comes up, I will also make sure I put my email in there for you all as well. I know Andrea just dropped it in the chat, but if you have any questions or any ideas about how you want to do this for local government or what have you, or things that you see that you need help with, that's what we're here for. That's why it's a team, right? And like for me, this realm, there's no such thing as a stupid question, because I'm never going to be upset with a single soul that doesn't know something. However, I will teach you. If I've got that knowledge, I'm happy to do that. Any questions, comments, concerns, thoughts?
I'm going to drop a link in the chat. I don't know how many people on this call are familiar with HR1. That was the federal budget that was introduced last July. Well, as most of us know, the federal budget was horrible. It did horrible things. And so one of the things that Edwuan has done is he has prepared legislative priorities, bills that each individual state would need to introduce in order to mitigate the damage that HR1 is going to do to healthcare, because they canceled the subsidies, food because they stole money out of SNAP, and education because they capped grants. They changed who's eligible to get them, and a number of other things. So the link in the chat shows where you can go and take a look at HR1 and how you could mitigate the impact in your state. So when you go to the website, there is a drop down, all 50 states are there. Pick your state, and then you'll get a chance to see all of the information that you need for your state. I know most of us are from Virginia, but we've got a couple of people from other states.
Yeah.
So, Edwuan, that was wonderful.
I do want to speak to the HR1 dossiers really quick too, though. For those of you that don't know what it is, go take a look. But a couple of other things that we cover in that is tax conformity for the state, so that we make sure taxpayers don't take any brunt of this, especially tax brackets on the lower ends, right? And then the other thing that we cover is hospitals and rural closures. And so we really want to think about not closing down hospitals in rural areas of any state, to include Virginia. And understanding that once we close hospitals, they don't usually open right back up, do they? And so we definitely want to make sure that we kind of look at, and that was the thing. When we looked at this thing as a whole, the effects are going to be felt far wide across every intersectionality, socioeconomic class, damn near. It doesn't matter if you're in a rural area, an urban area. It don't know skin color. It usually don't know socioeconomic class unless you in the top 10%, really. And it will literally harm every single one of us in some way, shape, form, or fashion, or someone we love. And so, in that vein, I would advise everyone to take a look at it. If you got family in another state, send it to them. If you got a legislator that you know in your individual state that's a separate one, give it to them and let me know because I'll give them a follow-up call. And I say that because if the states don't do what they can do now, while they have the autonomy to do it, once we start feeling the effects of this, there's no turning back.
Do we have any other questions? I dropped in a little information in general about HR1. HR1 was basically a $24.8 billion tax cut for the 813 billionaires. Who knew we had that many, but we do in the United States. They each got $30 million. The 362 million rest of us Americans, we got $16.50. Now, how did they pay for those tax cuts? Well, they stole our health care, they stole our food, they stole our education. And notice I use the word stole because that is exactly what they did. This is the largest transfer of wealth from the middle class and the poor to the super rich in the history of the United States, possibly in the history of man.
I mean, yes, and they're utilizing different precedents by using things that were once considered as mandatory spending, things like safety nets for people and things like that, and started making it discretionary spending. So making it a choice whether we want to keep doing that or not.
And then I saw the note in the chat. Yes, that was HR1, the
The
one
big,
big
beautiful
beautiful
bill.
bill. Yes. Mhm. Yes. I sometimes refer to it as the big fugly bill with F standing for whatever you want it to stand for.
Mhm. Okay. I mean, the things that we have discovered through this process, I will tell you that doing all 50 states and Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C., there is not a single state nor territory that is not going to feel the effects of the big, beautiful bill. There's not a single state that will get out of this unscathed unless they start doing the retroactive things to mitigate it and put it in their state codes now so that when the federal government puts this thing in full force, now we don't have our hands tied behind our backs going, well, what do we do now?
Advanced planning. Yes. Yes, I see the note. The death of Nicole Good and Alex Preddy are the result of that bill. And again, it is interesting that ICE is considered a quote law enforcement in air quotes agency where they are basically the most lawless agency that we have.
You mean it's Trump's SS. This is his little Gestapo, I that's pretty much how I look at it at this point. And I because they don't care about color, creed, background, whatever. The things that define you as an American citizen, if you're not the standard rendition of what that looks like, they're trying to put you back wherever you came from.
They need you to be straight, rich, male, and
Usually the
white.
color of a particular complexion.
Yes, 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 yes.
And so for me,
Okay.
I challenge all of you, I urge all of you, I thank all of you. And I hope that in the short term and hopefully the long term too, that I get to see you in the General Assembly, that we get to work together to co-collaborate and co-vision what a better Virginia looks like, and to start putting some fire under the asses of these legislators to do something right for once.
We have to pay them they might as well work for us.
I know that's right. And they're trying to ask for more money now, like you worked the whole year. Crazy work. Someone said something about what is that in there? I want to make sure I catch it. Certain prisons focus. Oh, the processing center. Oh, yeah.
I order oil candles.
Processing centers. Um, so there was a couple proposals on that. I want to say the latest update around that was that the Hanover Board of Supervisors, in a very pivotal, unanimous vote, actually turned down the opportunity to have an expansion of Pamunkey Regional to add an ice processing center there. But they are trying for other municipalities though. So being mindful of that, as long as there is one that's going to be willing, they're going to try. But there's ways to tackle that too. And usually it's through your local sheriffs, really and truly. They are the ones who, control the jails as a constitutional officer for the most part. And then for the private prisons, it's usually behooving to the Department of Justice, Juvenile Justice, and a part of the state as well, to navigate what some of those issues and processes look like. And usually with the private prisons, if the legislature don't approve, can't do it. Municipalities just can't do it. Don't do it. And so there's some level of oversight. They're going to keep making it's the same thing for the data centers as well. We've had a lot of the conversations about the data centers, what they do, how harmful they are. And even within all of that, Virginia is still the #1 state with all of these data centers in it. We know what they do to the environment. We know what they do to residential neighborhoods. We know all these things already. So those are some of the things that we have been looking at. And yes, Sarah, there will be recordings sent out to everyone for this. I know they're going to be doing this vote in a couple of other spots. Is it Clark County, Craigsville, somewhere around there? I can't remember off the top of my head. Yep, Craigsville. Sorry, you got it. I see you, Louise. But yeah, within that, like those ideas, I really want folks to be able to bring up with me in the Signal thread or separately via email, so that we can kind of try and walk through a game plan, to try and help navigate what that looks like and doing what we can with the powers that we've got. And so again, for me, on behalf of the Center for Common Ground team, shout out to John, Gabe, Bakura, Janice. I see you, Rick. And of course, to our fearless leader, Miss Andrea Miller. I'm so thankful for all of y'all. And then to all of you who chose to spend your Wednesday night with us, I'm so appreciative and honored to have your time. It is appreciated. And in the words of Auntie Maxine, I will yield the rest of your time and you can reclaim it for the evening. Thanks, guys.
You won. Thank you very much. Good night, everybody.